And welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to Choose Happiness, Choose You here on the Win-Win Women Network. I'm, of course, your hostess, Dr. Natalie Forrest, also known as the Revolutionary Rule Breaker. And as I mentioned before, I didn't come up with that. Other people who describe me and the way that I mentor, the way that I live my life, the way that I coach, even though I prefer the term mentor, and the way that I do everything that I do. So think about how you do what you do. And today we are going to talk about language. So what are the words that you're choosing? If you haven't watched any of the episodes prior to this, I invite you to do that. You can do that here on the Win-Win Women Network, on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon. Take your pick. And then if you've got any questions, if you want to dive a little deeper, just reach out to me. In the Win-Win store, you can definitely find some stuff that I'm offering. And I also invite you just to reach out to me directly. We can have a chat. Who knows? I'm known to be pretty insightful, so I may just be able to provide you some important insights, just like I intend to do today. Today, I'd like to talk about language. Which language chooses you? Which language choose you? You choose. You see how you can play with language already? Now, the title is, Which Language Suits You? But the suiting really has more to do with choosing. So one example, if you watched the show before, I love to start all of my shows out with, a little card. I don't know if I've done this one before with you all, but I'm going to today pick a card from the power animals. Why? Because I love how the language of cards, the images, the language of images, the language of animals, the language of everything in our daily life actually fits in with what we're doing today and every single day. Which one should I choose? I don't know, none has popped out yet. So this one. Okay, we're going to use this one. Oh, look at that. A porcupine. Ooh. Now, since we're talking about language, look at it, a porcupine. When you see the image of a porcupine, images is language too. I'm a historian by trade. We used to talk and tell history in images. And let's face it, we've gone back to it. Otherwise, we wouldn't use PowerPoints, right? So, porcupine. When you see the porcupine, without reading what's underneath, what does it tell you? What does it tell you? What do you think of? What is this? Now, this card, of course, says porcupine innocence. Free yourself of guilt and shame. I love that. Because very often, we're not really that honest in the language that we use, are we? Now, you may look at a porcupine and you say, it's kind of prickly, it's kind of hurtful. Well, it might also be very sensitive, right? So according to this, and just as a reminder, if you're like me and you're a medium and you do readings, you don't necessarily, where'd the card go? You don't necessarily need this one here. You really don't, because I'm already getting the information I need. However, see the world through the eyes of a child, trusting your inner mother and father to be there wherever you need them. Protection is available when you need it. Yeah, a porcupine can be hurtful. So you can feel safe in expressing yourself, language, in all the different ways you've always wanted to. There's boldness and innocence, and no more need to hide behind any childhood guilt about perceived misdeeds or to be consumed with shame about revealing your true inner self. Isn't that nice? And then, of course, it goes on and on and on and on and on. Dance, laugh, sing, and be free again, like you were on the day you were born. I love this. It's exactly what I keep talking about. Choose happiness, choose you. Exactly, choose you. When somebody tells me, well, I just want to make other people happy. Ooh, you have no idea what conversation we're having then, do you? We do have a conversation because it's not possible. So, my hair is not playing along today. My hair is talking too. Can you see it? It's like, I want to stick up. Language. Images speak 1,000 words. Language can be in images. If you've ever done any course in communication, how do people actually communicate? We know that the verbal part of the communication is actually very, very low. It's about the way that you sit, the way that you look at somebody, all of the body language. Okay? So there's a variety of opportunity to choose a language. These are just some of them. Today, I don't really want to talk as much about body language or imagery. Today, I really want to talk about language, meaning verbal language. Even though it's true, it's a minuscule part of our daily perceptions when we communicate. But we do communicate with words as well. And one of the things I've talked about previously, and I'll likely come back to, is the self-talk. And that's connected to language. What language do you use, right? Now, the language that I have in mind for today is actually language, meaning which tongue suits you best? Or which one do you choose? As you know, I do my shows sometimes in German and sometimes in English. I try to balance it. Well, why do I do that? Let's face it, most everybody in Germany, in Europe, speaks English. I mean, that's how I grew up. That's how I learned English. In school, everybody talks English. I can go to most countries in Europe, and if I don't speak their language, which I always try to do, because to me, that's important as a respectful gesture, as a respectful way of showing I want to learn about your culture and your country. But if I'm really not good at it, we may end up switching to English. That doesn't mean we all love the English language. Sorry if I'm bursting some bubbles. It doesn't. What it does mean is that there's a commonality. So sometimes we pick a language that we know or think we know, most people understand. And then, of course, there are nuances, right? There are always nuances in how well somebody speaks the language. If you use too many idioms, we're not going down that road. I had a conversation just this past week, and before that as well, but this past week really stuck out to me. So last week, I was having coffee with a friend. It was really nice. We had coffee, and you know that I've just returned from a longer stay in the US to my hometown of Hamburg, Germany. And I know that I'm here for a reason. And therefore, we're having this conversation, and she had studied in the US a little bit as well. So, she can function very well in both languages too. And for some reason, oh, I know, we were talking about going to a musical together. Hamburg is also a very cultural city. We've got a lot of theater, musical theater, and all of that. We're talking about going to see a musical together. And what happens in Hamburg, for example, with a lot of the musicals is that they translate them, okay? They translate them into German. Even some of the songs And if you think about it, on the one hand, it's great. It's about that respect. It's about knowing not everybody necessarily speaks English. If it is an English show, they do it with every show, not just English musicals, also Italian. Opera is still mostly in Italian. Okay. But if there's any foreign movie, musical, film coming out, it's usually dubbed or then very detailed oriented, translated, and then put on stage. And it's a sign of respect. It's, we have a lot of tourists in Hamburg too, so I guess it makes sense. It does sometimes, though, rule breaker, revolutionary, appear a little strange if songs that we all know in English suddenly have German words. It's just interesting. Okay. I mean, imagine a song that you really, really like in English, because a lot of the music that we listen to, that our kids listen to, is in English. We do have great German music. We do have great Swedish music, great Italian, great Spanish. That's not the point, but they're overarching, there's a lot of English music. And then if you've grown up with it, hearing it in English, it's all of a sudden you hear it in German, like you hear the beat, and you're going, oh yeah, I know this, oh yeah. And then you're like, whoa, what are they saying? So that's how we started talking about language. And then we started talking about movies. As I mentioned, they're usually dubbed as well. I grew up with that. And it was funny when I went to the US and then I heard the real voices of some major actors for the first time. I was like, oh my God, that's his voice. Oh, she sounds like this. Because the tone of the voice, of course, also reverberates with you somewhere in your body, in your heart, in your soul. There's a vibration to it, right? There's an energetic vibration. So a certain tone of voice, a vocal tone, you have certain associations with. And of course, it's also often individualized. So that happened. And now we're talking, my friend, now we're talking over coffee about the dubbed or translated movies. And we both agree to some degree that when we listen to when we watch new movies in English, in their original format, they're not as brass sometimes. They don't appear to be quite as harsh, or even, the verbiage, I'm trying to figure out how to best say it, of bad words. It doesn't seem as intense. While when I then look at the German version, I find myself lately going, whoa, that's a bit harsh. Ooh, do I really want to watch this? Well, in English, I don't get the same feeling. So we were talking about that and wondering about that. What are the energetic impulses we get? And what are the emotions we get? And what type of language do we use? If I don't like something, for example, is there just one way of saying it, or are there multiple ways? And one thing that I've always appreciated about the German language and some other languages is the way that French is a good example for that as well, where we can make a statement or formulate a request, and it sounds really, really nice. But the underlying intonation may not be as nice, but it sounds nice. It's like diplomatic language. Of course, we can do that in English too. But you see, there are some languages that sound really, really elegant, even if the person is cursing. It just sounds kind of, So looking at it that way, I was like, that's interesting. And to give you a very precise example, this is my German background speaking. When I hear somebody say, I want a drink, I want the butter, I want bread, whatever it may be. When I hear people say, I want, I cringe. Like in a restaurant or, at a street festival or at the table at home. It's like, I want. I'm like, oh, that's just not nice. Now that's my emotional response to it, right? If you say, I would like to have, or may I have, or could I have, yeah, different ballgame. And in German, it's always been that we say, ich möchte gern, ich hätte. We always used more of the, I'm going to throw a grammatical term at you, the conjunctive, okay? More of the conditional phrasing, like, hey, I would like to have that, or if I could have that. It sounds different. It's more pleasing, even though they both say the same thing. So the structure of what you're saying and the words that you're using can make all the difference. Plus, just the sound of a language. You've probably noticed that. I mean, why do I love Italian language? Oh, it's so smooth. Right? It's so smooth. It's just like rolls. Now, then I was having a conversation with another friend. That was actually over the phone. And we were talking about the work I do, the work she does, and in what language we're doing. She's German, just like me, the way that we're doing it. And we were sharing, and I was saying, yeah, well, I do my show, partially in German, partially in English, because I feel I need to. There's a reason why I'm back in Germany, and therefore I think I need to. And we started talking about how we choose the language for what we do. And that is also connected to not just the way that we feel about it, but also who we want to reach and how we want to reach people. And it all comes down in how can you best express what you want to express? What is the right language? And the interesting thing is, it may not always be your mother tongue. If you have a knack for languages, you may feel much better expressing certain things in a different language. I love, using bad words in a completely different language because it just sounds sweeter, even though it's as bad as in any other language. Okay? Or sometimes when I see my daughter, I say, hola, guapa. Not hello, beautiful. I say, hola, guapa. Just sounds different. Okay? Or I'll say, ciao, bella, instead of tschüss. It's the same kind of idea, right? And yet there's a different choice I'm making based on the emotions, based on what I feel I want to get across. I hope that makes sense so far, because if you've watched me before, I always have my candle on, I've got love thing. Doesn't mean that I don't from time to time freak out, right? So that's a whole different story, because I'm a human being. We all have our moments. But I like to surround myself with peaceful, calm, clear, very clear, calm, clear, and as I would call it, connected language, connected environment, connected atmosphere. And I've noticed that some people that I've recently met or listened to or looked at the training of, because I like to see who else is offering something. If we can collaborate, collaboration is very, very important. It's another C, collaboration. Okay. I found that they're talking, for example, about spirituality and loving yourself, and they're using curse word in every other sentence. And to me, and this is just me, but I'm inviting you to think about yourself, okay? To me, that's like, Now, if I want to feel peaceful, it doesn't really help to use a cuss word in every other sentence. Don't get me wrong, I cuss from time to time, of course, I'm a human being, but I really don't do that when mentoring or when I'm in my zone. when I talk about spirituality, when I talk about the work I do, when I work with my mentee, those words are not even in the vicinity of my brain. So that language doesn't suit me in the work I do. The question, the invitation for you is to think about what language suits you. What language, meaning what tongue, and what type of language in that tongue. Because we know our brain reacts to voice, tone, and language. So what kind of atmosphere and environment, thereby in my words, what energy do you want to create and surround yourself in? Do you want it to be cringe? Do you want it to be soft? Do you want it to be scientific? What's your choice? And for any of you ladies who are in a profession, what is your choice that works for you and creates that inner happiness and confidence in you, choose you? And what is the connection to the language you may need to use in your profession or as a speaker, as a coach, to get your message across? Sometimes it might be language you wouldn't use at home, but then where's the authentic connection, right? So I know, and this is why I love the porcupine, I know that it's sometimes easier to fall in line. You know, all the other coaches out there use that language. I should too, because then people will be attracted to me. Okay, that makes sense on one level, right? It does. That is the latest fad, okay? Yet, is that in alignment with me? If I get all of these mentees who are okay with that type of language, how am I going to use my one-on-one mentoring hours with these people who are used to kind of more of a, let's just say, brass language? Because I don't use it. And part of my focus, of course, is in my mentoring to help you be calm, clear, and confident and connected. And calm means peaceful. Now, if I'm peaceful, I don't need to be using curse words. I don't. So that wouldn't be part of my mentoring. And then if my mentee comes in and uses that language all the time, it'll like disrupt my zone, right? So do I really want to work with those people? Those are wonderful people, don't get me wrong. Everybody, wonderful people. And they're also working on their own transformation or their own awareness and consciousness. And it fits them, which is awesome. More power to them. But it doesn't fit me. It doesn't suit me or my style. So if I use the same language as somebody else, either because they're more more curse words, or it's too scientific, or it's too much hoopla about lovely, 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 dearly, if I on my inside cringe, and I know I wouldn't use that language, am I authentic using it just to get my message across and get mentees? My answer is no. Your answer might be different. So because I want to remain authentic and really give the best value, I'm going to go with the language that suits me. And a lot of times, it seems a little easier for me right now to express certain things in English. And I also know that part of what I'm going to work on continuously and why I will keep doing this show in 2 languages is because I would love to soften the German language again. German language to me is beautiful. We got a lot of poets, got a lot of musicians, beautiful, and much softer than what I hear now. So I might be a revolutionary, who knows, in changing that a little bit too. So what language suits you? What language, what tongue suits you? Try it out. Most of you ladies are looking at having your own business, being a solopreneur, entrepreneur. Some of you are professional women where you have to be a little more, I don't know, bossy sometimes, okay? And you can be bossy and still be yourself and soft, or you might automatically be more bossy if that suits you. And if that means you are authentic, choosing yourself, and thereby remaining peaceful and calm on the inside, clearly choosing happiness, go for it. More power to you. Just explore the language that you're using. Verbal, nonverbal, is that suiting you and supporting you and living your life your way? Because that is what's going to attract mentees, coaches, clients, or promotions, or a happy family around you. What language suits you? Maybe you're better in drawing. Maybe you're better in pantomime. I don't know. Check it out. Check out how you react to different languages, different expressions, and then decide for yourself by putting yourself first. I hope I got you thinking. That's what I love doing. And remember, it doesn't mean that you don't from time to time freak out. I do too. Not when I do my work, not when I'm in my zone. Very rarely do I use curse language. That doesn't make me better than anybody else. It just makes me me. And I'd like for you to be you. If you've got any questions about what I've talked about today, please reach out. Language is a crucial part of everyday life. Whether you talk to yourself, others, or are being talked to or at or with. It's a crucial part, verbal and nonverbal. The language we hear in music, the language we hear when we go to the movies, theater, etc., etc., etc. There's language everywhere. My cat is exchanging language with me right now. So, get in touch. Let's talk about your language, your life, your happiness, and your success. Just email me or find me on social media. And of course, this is the first time you've been here, look at the archive and be back next week when I may just have a guest. See you all later.